All right, today we are diving into something huge, how to actually overcome the biggest challenges you're facing. And the answer we're going to uncover, well, it's probably the exact opposite of everything you've ever been taught about hustle, talent, and just pure willpower. So let's get right into it.
This ancient line is really our starting point, and it is pretty radical when you think about it. It's basically saying that real success, whether it's in your job, your family, or some personal project you're pouring your heart into, it doesn't actually come from your money, your connections, or even how smart or strong you are. The source of victory is, well, it's somewhere else entirely.
And there it is. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, if our own strength, our own effort, if those aren't the keys, then what is? How does this actually work in the real world? That is exactly what we are going to break down.
Okay, so to really get this, we have to first understand the single biggest thing that gets in our way. And you might be surprised to hear that it's our intense focus on ourselves, on I.
You know, this just frames the problem so perfectly. We usually think pride is the bad guy, right? And that feeling sorry for ourselves, that self-condemnation, feels kind of humble. But really, they're just two sides of the very same coin. Pride says, hey, look at all the amazing things I've done, and condemnation says, oh, look at all the things I've failed to do. You see, both are totally fixated on the self.
There's this brilliant analogy about a farmer with 2 sacks of seeds. Imagine one sack is filled with seeds that look absolutely perfect. They're clean, they're polished, super impressive. But they're sterile. You can plant them all day long, but they will never, ever produce a harvest. That's exactly what it's like when we rely on our own performance. It might look good from the outside, but ultimately, it's fruitless. It produces nothing of real value.
Now, to see how this plays out for real, let's look at a case study from history. So after years of being in exile, 2 leaders, a governor named Zerubbabel and a high priest named Joshua, they get this monumental task to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. I mean, this was a project that was just massively important, both for the nation and for their spirit.
So they start out with a ton of enthusiasm. But almost right away, they hit this wall of intense opposition. The local people are trying to discourage them, they're hiring people to frustrate their plans, they're even writing official letters of accusation to the king. The pressure just kept building and building until just 2 years in, the whole project just grinds to a complete stop.
And we're not talking about a little pause for a few months. The work was completely abandoned for 12 long years. Can you imagine that? The foundation is laid, it's full of promise, and then nothing, just silence and ruin. It looked like a total failure, stalled out because of all that external pressure. Or so it seemed.
And this is where the story gets really, really interesting. To get the project going again, a prophet named Zechariah is given this vision to show what was really happening behind the scenes. And it turns out, all that external opposition, that wasn't the root cause of the failure at all.
So Zechariah gets his vision. He sees Joshua, the high priest, the spiritual leader of the entire nation, standing before God. But he's not wearing his fancy priestly robes. He's dressed in filthy garments. And standing right there next to him is an accuser, basically pointing out all his failures. This shows us the real problem wasn't the enemies on the outside, it was the internal state of the leader himself.
So what's the deal with these filthy garments? Well, they're a symbol of condemnation, of shame, of self-accusation. The leader himself felt disqualified. He felt condemned because the project failed. He had taken all those accusations to heart, and it was this spiritual state of condemnation that paralyzed the entire project for more than a decade.
So here's the crucial point. How is this deep-seated problem of condemnation actually solved? I mean, if the leader is the problem, what's the solution? Does he just need to try harder? Think more positively? Nope. The solution was something totally different.
Here's the problem, just laid bare. Joshua is standing there, totally frozen in failure, covered in the evidence of his own inadequacy. And this is the state that stops progress, that stops favor, and that allows the opposition to win.
And then comes the stunning solution. God doesn't tell Joshua, hey, go wash your clothes or clean up your act. He doesn't give him a 5-step plan for self-improvement. He just commands the angels, take away the filthy garments from him. And then he gives him a brand new outfit, rich robes. It's a total exchange, replacing that condemnation with righteousness, a state of being made right with God, not because you earned it, but as a free gift. This gets right to the heart of the message. In the vision, God tells Joshua, see,
I have removed your iniquity. And that word iniquity, it means all the guilt and failure that was weighing him down. But notice, it's past tense. It's something that was already done for him. The right to lead, the right to build again, it wasn't something Joshua had to earn back. It was a gift, given freely in an instant.
Okay, so how does this ancient story about a high priest and a building project apply to us right here, right now? Well, all of us have our own daunting tasks, our own impossible projects. What the text here calls a great mountain.
I mean, really think about it for a second. What's the great mountain in your life right now? Is it a business that's just struggling to stay afloat? A relationship that feels broken beyond repair? Maybe a health issue that just seems overwhelming? It's that impossible thing that you feel like you just don't have the might or the power to overcome.
So, once Joshua's condemnation is dealt with, God gives a really strange instruction to the other leader, Zerubbabel, the governor. He says the way you're going to finish this impossible project, the way this mountain in front of you is going to become a flat plain, is not by trying harder, it's by shouting grace, grace to it. It's this act of declaring that unearned, unmerited favor, not your own strength, is what's going to get the job done.
So this brings it all together into this really powerful, practical tool. First, you've got to identify the mountain. Name it. What is that impossible challenge? Second, you have to consciously acknowledge, I can't do this by my own might or power. You let go of that self-focus. And third, you speak to it. You actually declare that God's grace, His unmerited favor, is the force that's going to level that thing to the ground.
And that's really the thought I want to leave you with today. We all have mountains, but instead of just attacking them with our own limited strength or getting paralyzed by condemnation when we fail, maybe the key is to just change our declaration. So what mountain in your life has been waiting, maybe for years, to simply hear the sound of grace?